let's get started. Please be seated. Thank you all so much for this opportunity. Help me honor and thank our pastors, Pastors Jeff and Jasmine Gibbs. We honor you today for being our leaders. I told you that you're the leaders of my dreams, and I really do mean that. And I thank you so much for this opportunity. And I want to thank and honor my honey bun, my honey, Pastor John Jones. He my pastor in secret, but this is Pastor John Jones. I honor and I thank him this morning. Thank you so much for your support. And I have another special guest with me, my ride or die, my best friend, LaToya. She's with me supporting as well. Thank you for being here. All right, let's get started. I want you to take a trip down memory lane with me to one of what I consider the last best decade. And I know that in this place, we have a lot of ages, different ranges in this place. So this is just my opinion. I know it could be controversial, but for me, the last greatest, best decade is the 90s. Okay, y'all are in here. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I love the 90s. And if you know me, you know this. Everything about it. It was the height of fashion, television, movies, just culture in general. I love the 90s, okay? And so one of the things that I love most about the 90s, my kids will tell you, is the music. That's my favorite genre. I mean, it was the height of hip hop, rap, R&B, all the things. It was the height of it. And one of the hallmarks of the 90s carried over from the 80s is this thing that we used to do. It's called crafting a mixtape. Y'all remember those mixtapes we used to make? Yes. So for those of you who are too young to know and who was born in the 2000s, maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't know what I'm talking about, but this mixtape, this was long before creating digital playlists. If you wanted to make a compilation of something, you had to put in some work, right? So you would take that blank cassette tape and you would stick it in your boom box. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember the boom box? You would stick it in that boom box and you would wait for that song to come on the radio. And you had to move quickly or you'll cut your song off, right? So you put that tape in the boom box, and when that song came on, you'd quickly press play and record at the same time, right? To get that song, right? You didn't want to do it too fast because you didn't want to hear what the DJ said, and you didn't want to cut it off to cut your song off, but you would make these mixtapes. And in the 90s, these really turned into the soundtracks of our lives. You would make them for all types of reasons. Some people will make them for their boo, get you a compilation of love songs you'll give to your lover, say, oh, I was thinking about you. You would make a mixtape to get you pumped up. Maybe you're getting ready to go to the club. Not me, maybe some of y'all. Not me. You would make your mixtape to get you pumped to go to the club. Maybe you'll have a tape for riding in your car, whatever it may be. These tapes became the soundtrack of our lives, these mixtapes. And just like the mixtapes of the 90s, some of us right now have a mixtape playing in the recesses of our mind. It's a compilation of all the trials, tribulations, pain, trauma, all these tracks that we picked up along the way that are playing in the background. That are, it's controlling everything you say, you do, and your perception on life. If I had to give this mixtape a name, it would be called Rejection. So the name of my message today is the Rejection Mixtape. And we're going to talk about how this tape running in the background absolutely affects every part of your life. So let's first start off with defining what rejection is against the spirit of rejection. It's two totally different things. So rejection is a single event or experience, okay? It's to refuse to be accepted, to be unwanted, to be seen as unsatisfactory, to be not put to use, to be refused. But the spirit of rejection takes that event and it turns it into who you are. It's an oppressive spirit. It's a pervasive belief and mindset that you are just overall, in general, unwanted and unloved. So rejection says this happened to me, but the spirit of rejection says this is who I am. And that's what we're coming for today. So with this spirit of rejection, it usually starts out with an event, something that happens that we can't let go of. I had one of these experiences when I was 11 years old. And I know a lot of you have heard me tell this story. I've told it a lot of times, but it's really a hallmark of what started my life off with this theme, this banner over my head as the rejected one. So when I was 11, it seemed small, but it was really big. I was 11, and I was spending the night at my best friend's house. And she had her other friend there. You know, I wasn't her friend, but that was my friend's friend. We were all over there playing all day, having a great time. So we, as kids usually do, we decided that we were going to take this thing and keep it going all night. We're going to turn it into a sleepover. So we crafted this plan that we were going to have my friend go downstairs and ask her parents if it's okay if we spend the night. So she goes downstairs. Now me, I'm impatient. I didn't want to wait for her to come back up to tell me what the answer was. So unbeknownst to her, I followed behind her. And I went downstairs and I listened carefully to the conversation that she was having with her parents. I didn't hear what her parents said at first, but what I heard at the end was, well, only one of them can stay. So I was so excited. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm about to have me a sleepover. And she was like, oh, okay, that's great. Jessica can stay, but Bridgette can go home. I heard that. And in that moment, my heart broke. I literally felt physical pain in that moment. Because, you know, the brain, it accepts rejection and pain the same. It all feels the same to the brain. And in that moment, my heart broke. And it started me off in this trajectory through time where I always felt unwanted. The person who was supposed to be my bestie told me that I can go home. She chose someone else over me. Why am I telling you this? Why am I telling you this story that happened to me 20-something years ago? Because if you want healing today, I need to debunk this myth that time heals all wounds. It does not. It is a lie. If it happened and it hurt, you need to be healed. And I want you, it doesn't matter if it happened yesterday or years ago, I want you to honor your experience today. Because whether you know it or not, that thing that happened, that thing that hurt, it's running like a tape in the background. It's affecting your relationships. It's affecting how you see the world. Time does not heal all wounds. And it wasn't until I had a divine encounter with my Maker that I realized I don't have to live with that spirit anymore. And today you can be free too. Today you can be free too. So we are going to take a look at a story in the Bible. We're going to take a look at King Saul. He was the rejected king. He knew rejection well. And we're going to step through his story to see what we can learn about rejection. I'm going to come out of 1 Samuel, and we're going to take a look at his life before, during, and after rejection and see how it affected him. So we're starting in chapter 8. So we have King Samuel. He's the current king of Israel, and he is getting old. And so it's time for him to make a transition and transfer leadership of the Israelites. Well, at first, he took his sons and he made them judges. But the people of Israel did not want that. They demanded a king. Against God's will for them, they demanded a king. So God told Samuel, go ahead and give them one. Here comes Saul. He was from a wealthy family. His father was wealthy. As a matter of fact, the Bible says he was the most handsome man in Israel and stood tall above everyone else. So you can read the story, but through God's divine orchestration, Samuel and Saul meet up, And Samuel tells Saul that you will, in fact, be the new king of Israel. Let's look in 1 Samuel 9:21 at Saul's first response. He says, "But I am only from the tribe of Benjamin, the smallest tribe in Israel, and my family is the least important of all the families of that tribe. Why are you talking like this to me?" So we see here that we have a soon-to-be king that is incredibly insecure. He doesn't know who he is. He's not secure in who God has called him to be, but he's about to be anointed king. Reluctantly, he is anointed king. Samuel anoints him, and now it's time to publicly announce to Israel that Saul will be the new king. Let's take a look at Saul's second response. I'm going somewhere. 1 Samuel 10:21. It says, "But when they looked for him," talking about Saul, when it's time to make this announcement about him being the new king, "when they looked for him, he had disappeared. So they asked the Lord, 'Where is he?' And the Lord replied, 'He is hiding among the baggage.' So they found him and brought him out, and he stood head and shoulders above anyone else." So it was time for Saul to be announced to be the next king, but he was scared and he was hiding. And I know that for some of you in this room, God is ready to pronounce you, but you're hiding. You're hiding. God has already told you what you're going to be, what you're going to do, the impact you're going to make, but you are nowhere to be found. You're hiding. In the scripture, it says that Saul was found among the baggage. What's the baggage you're hiding behind? I'll tell you, the baggage is called excuses. Excuses. You give every reason. I'm talking about me as of just last week. You give every type of excuse as to why you shouldn't be doing what God has called you to do. Excuses. Not secure in what God has called you to be. Not taking God as his word, at his word. Here's our first point. Identity insecurity is an open door for the spirit of rejection. You spend so much time making excuses about why you shouldn't be the one to do what God has called you to do. You don't need anyone to reject you. You're too busy rejecting yourself. Now, let's move on through the story. Just sit with that a little bit. They finally made this announcement that Saul will be the next king. So Saul, he leads the Israelites in a battle, and he wins. He's very good at it, as a matter of fact, the Bible says. And the people are confident in him, and so they go ahead and have this official ceremony that he will be king. So we have this insecure king that now has won a battle. He has the confidence of the people. And now he's probably, feeling himself a little bit like, okay, I can fight. I can do a little bit. I can do some things. So this is the picture of Saul before he experiences rejection. Let's talk about when he experiences this. So we move along through the story, and Saul again is up for battle again with the Israelites, up against the Philistines, and they severely outnumber them. So Samuel specifically told Saul to wait. Wait till I get there for instructions. Wait till I get there before we seek God to see exactly what it is we are supposed to do to be victorious. Well, Saul got impatient. I can imagine him, he feeling like he's doing good for himself. He's winning battles. I don't have time to wait. The people are looking at me. I'm already insecure. What if it looks like I don't know what I'm doing? So he said, I'm getting a little impatient. I'm going to go ahead and kill this fatted calf. I'm going to go ahead and make this sacrifice, this burnt offering to God. Wrong. Mistake. Let's see what Samuel's response is when he finds Saul in disobedience. 1 Samuel 13:13. How foolish, Samuel exclaimed. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. Had you kept it, the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom must end. Rejection. For the Lord has sought out a man after his own heart. The Lord has already appointed him to be the leader of his people because you have not kept the Lord's command. That is the first instance of rejection that we see written in Saul's life. So not only is he rejected as king, but Samuel goes on to tell him, and we found another one, and you're being replaced. It's a done deal. Rejection. There's another time where Saul experienced rejection. Again, Saul is called into battle, and God has instructed him to completely destroy the Amalekites. He says, don't leave anything. Destroy everything. Destroy every person, every animal, everything. But true to Saul's nature, he was yet again disobedient. He fought like he was told to, but instead of destroying everything, he spared their king, and he kept a couple of them little fat animals for himself. He said, oh, it's not going to be too big of a deal, okay? His excuse was, well, I kept those animals so that I can make a sacrifice. And we see in verse 23, we don't have to go there, God rejected him yet again. You are rejected as my king. I will not establish your kingdom. So we see here that the rejections just keep piling up. And I'm sure King Saul is now creating this narrative about himself. I'm not good enough. All the things that come along with rejection. So he's sad. He's sad about his disobedience. And we see here what happens, what he said. What was his excuse? 1 Samuel 15:24 says, then Saul admitted to Samuel, yes, I have sinned. I have disobeyed your instructions and the Lord's command for, why? I was afraid of the people and did what they demanded. Not only is he dealing in self-rejection, but he's dealing with the fear of rejection. How many times have we made decisions in our lives, whether relationally, financially, whatever, because we were afraid of being rejected? It's so easy to do that and get you out of the will of God, out of the plan of God for your life, just because you don't want to feel hurt anymore, because you don't want to feel that rejection. I have experienced this quite a few times in my life. If you go back to the people that have known me, all the years of my life, a lot of people will have very different stories of who I was, because I was something different to every person. I was something different to every single group. I remember when I was younger, this is so silly. I remember when I was younger, I decided that, okay, however I am, it's just not working. I'm not fitting in anywhere. So I decided I'm going to be a homie. Okay? I'm going to stop walking straight. I'm going to start walking with I'm going to be a homie. Okay? Yeah, what's up, y'all? Yeah. See, this looks so stupid. Okay? I decided I was going to be a homie. I was going to run with the homies, do what the homies do, okay? And it got me in situations that was hard to get out of. I didn't belong there. I was out of the will of God. I ended up in places where the cops got called, illicit things were happening, all because I was pretending to be something I wasn't, just so I wouldn't feel rejected anymore. And it kept me out of the will of God for so long. I could have been a light in a darkness, but instead I was just running with the homies, being something I wasn't. Here's our next point. Unresolved feelings of rejection can lead to self-preservation, doing whatever it takes to not feel rejected anymore. And it also keeps you from taking accountability for fear of being rejected when someone else finds out the truth about you, about what you did, about your experience. Unresolved feelings of rejection can lead to self-preservation. So now we're moving on in the story. And Saul is remorseful. He's sad about what he's done. And so he asked his mentor Samuel, please forgive me. Please forgive my sins and come with me to go worship. Here's Samuel's response, is rejection again. 1 Samuel 15:26. But Samuel replied, I will not go back with you, rejection. Since you have rejected the Lord's command, he has rejected you as king. How many times does he have to be told he is rejected? Over and over and over again. So, of course, Saul is sad. And Samuel turns to leave. Saul doesn't want him to leave, so he tries to grab him and hold him back, but he ends up tearing his robe. Here's Samuel's response. 1 Samuel 15:28. And Samuel said to him, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today and has given it to someone else who is better than you. How many times have we been passed over for someone who they thought was better than you? Hurtful. It hurts. It hurts so bad. So in Saul's life, the rejection keeps piling up. He keeps adding the tracks to this tape in his mind that he isn't good enough. He keeps being told he's not good enough. He keeps being told he's rejected. And we're about to see in a moment exactly how that affected his life. Now enters David, the one who is to replace Saul. Samuel finds David, you can read the story, I'm sure most of you know it, and anoints him as the next chosen king. And the Bible talks about how this spirit, this tormenting spirit, comes over Saul. Torment. The Spirit of God left him, and this spirit of torment is on him. It said that he's filled with depression and fear. I'm sure this had a whole lot to do with the fact that he kept being rejected, not just by God, but by his mentor, just rejection on every side. And it began to be a torment to him. Here's our next point. Unresolved feelings of rejection can lead to mental torment. I lived a lot of my life like this. And my husband will tell you, my poor husband, y'all, when we were first married, I had this spirit so tough, he couldn't even blink his eyes without me crying. He couldn't do anything without me feeling hurt, without me feeling rejected by him. And it also makes it, what it used to do is make it very, very hard for me to receive any feedback, correction, or anything, because that thing would torment me. You could say one small thing, Bridgette, just make this adjustment. And every day, Bridgette, just make this adjustment, make this adjustment. Oh, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. They think you're stupid. Da, 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 da. You need to be replaced. Tormenting thoughts. And it was hard to get off that wheel in my mind. It would torment me. So I would keep myself out of positions that would require me to get feedback for fear of being rejected. Those unresolved feelings lead to that mental torment. And that's where we find Saul. He's tormented on every side because he's been rejected. So moving along in the story, we see Saul is still tormented, and he's given the advice to call up David, this musician, and ask him to play the harp for him so that he can find some level of peace. So David comes, he plays the harp for him, the tormenting spirit leaves, and Saul ends up loving David and kind of taking him in. Now the story is about to shift. David's about to show out. Now enters the story of David and Goliath. This young boy that Saul brought in, who apparently is going to be his replacement. The story of David and Goliath. I'll go through it quickly. So there was this giant Philistine who came out, and he was taunting the Israelites day after day after day. All the Israelites were afraid except David. Long story short, he did what needed to be done. He took a stone and a slingshot, brought that giant down, took his own sword, cut off the head of the giant. When the Philistine army saw this, they were afraid and they started running away, which made it easier for the Israelites to follow after them and win and kill them in battle. They ran away scared, but the Israelites conquered them. Now we see what happens when someone else gets a little shine. So David and everyone else comes back to town. All the men, this is important, all the men were coming back into town, and all the women were still there. Let's see what happens when they return from battle. 1 Samuel 18:7. It says, this was their song. The women, okay? This was their song. Saul has killed his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Just singing it, y'all. This made Saul very angry. What's this, he said. They credit David with 10,000s and me with only thousands? Next, they'll be making him their next king. So from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. Can you imagine how Saul must have felt? The Bible talks about he actually won quite a few battles, Saul did. But here comes David taking down the giant, leading people to battle, and all of a sudden he gets a song. He gets a whole album from the women in town. Oh, they just singing. Oh, he's so good. He's so this and that. I'm the king, though. I'm Saul. I've done this many times, but he gets a song? Comparison. Saul starts to compare himself with David and is left sad, left destitute. Here's our next point. One of the sneakiest ways the spirit of rejection can enter is through comparison. You know what comparison basically is? Self-rejection. Self-rejection gives you a heightened awareness of your flaws as you are comparing yourself to the next person. Why were they chosen? Why wasn't I good enough? Just comparing. It's a sneaky way for that spirit to come in. Listen, do not waste another day of your life comparing yourself. If you were meant to be just like the next person, you would be just like the next person. Let me tell you a secret. God made you the way he did on purpose. It's not by accident. He chose the way you look on purpose. He chose the way you speak on purpose. He chose your skin color on purpose. We black because he wanted us to be black. God made you the way he made you on purpose. There's no need to compare. God has a specific assignment just for you, and you can't do it if you're trying to be somebody else. You can't do it. So now, because of this tormenting spirit, now Saul becomes a madman. He just turns crazy. Now he sees that David is the enemy. He's actually afraid of David. It said the more and more David becomes successful, the more he became afraid of David, the young shepherd boy. He was afraid of him. And so King Saul literally set up schemes trying to kill him over and over again, just all kinds of stuff trying to eradicate David. Although David posed no physical threat to him. Why? He became obsessed with getting rid of David. Here's our next point. The spirit of rejection can make you see enemies where none exist. We all know that person, or maybe you are that person who just can't get a relationship right, whether it's friendship or whatever. You just feel like everybody is against you. It's so exhausting to be around that person because it doesn't matter how nice you are. It doesn't matter how much you give, how much you help them, how much you pray for them, how much you call and check on them. It doesn't matter. It'll never be enough. When you're in this spirit, you see enemies where they don't even exist. You come to church and one person doesn't speak to you, and now you're mad at the pastors. They're your enemy because Pastor Jazz didn't speak to you on the way out. Seeing enemies where they don't exist. Here's the thing about rejection. It can be real or imaginary. You can feel it even though it's not there. The spirit of rejection can make you see enemies where none exist. So we've come to the end of the story, and basically Saul never got it right. He can't get right. That's who he is. He can't get right. He never gets it right. He ends up throwing himself on his sword and killing himself. So much like Saul's story, where he's piling up all these instances of rejection and forming an opinion about himself, we've done the same thing. We've taken all these experiences in our life of rejection, hurt, disappointed, being unwanted. We're just adding to the tape in our minds, and it's just playing. We see the world through rejection. We see our relationships through rejection. You church hop because you feel rejected. It's this tape playing in the back of your head. And whether you know it or not, it's having an influence on everything that you're doing. It's having an influence. So this mixtape, this rejection mixtape, we're going to talk about the track lists that's on this tape. And each of these tracks represent a thought, an ideology, a belief that maybe you, as one who has this spirit, has taken on. And we're going to fight it with the truth this morning. This rejection mixtape track list. Number one, song number one, Flawless. This has to do with perfectionism. That's me. So when you are oppressed by the spirit of rejection, you move into perfectionism. You try to be perfect, or as perfect as you possibly can be, to be accepted. You are tormented when you make mistakes, and you offer very little grace to everyone else around you. That's me. That was me for a long time. I hate making mistakes because I hate looking stupid. And so I tried so hard to the point where it would make my head hurt. I would lose sleep at night just trying to be as perfect as possible, because if maybe people see me as perfect, they won't see that I really am insecure and don't really believe what God has said about me. Perfectionism. It torments you. Here's the truth. 2 Corinthians 12:9. My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Flawless. The next track is called Incomplete. That's feelings that you are not good enough, that you're inferior, that something is missing, that something is generally wrong with you. And when you feel incomplete, when you feel like you don't measure up, when you don't believe what God has said about you, you enter into self-sabotage. You sabotage every relationship God has sent you to deliver you, to help heal you. You sabotage God's plans for your life. You sabotage the opportunities that come your way. You sabotage everything because you already feel incomplete and you don't think you can get the job done. Not good enough. Here's the truth. Ephesians 2:10. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do the good things he has planned for us long ago. So not only are you complete, you're chosen. God has a plan for you. For each and every one of you in here, you are complete and whole in him, and you are perfectly made for the plan that he has for you. So you don't have to look at other people. You don't have to compare yourself. All you have to do is ask God, what am I to do? That is what you are perfectly designed to do. What's for you? You don't have to be the best person on the prayer team. You don't have to sing like Jocelyn. You don't have to be good with media like Misha. You don't have to be any of that. All you have to be is you. You are complete, holy in Christ, just the way you are. So we have flawless. We have incomplete. Our next track, never again. Never again. This is an inner vow to not allow anyone to hurt or reject you again. You don't trust anyone, and it's just me, myself, and I. That's all I need. As long as I got King Jesus, that's a lie. You need people. You need people. You reject people before they have a chance to reject you. You find it hard to receive love because in the back of your mind, you feel like no one means you any good. You're just waiting for the ball to drop. You're just waiting to be rejected. And because of that, you keep everyone, even the people who love you, at arm's length. So you say to yourself, never again. I will never put myself in this position to feel rejected and to feel hurt again. And what you're doing is you're isolating yourself. God could be sending people across your way right now, but because you said never again, you can't receive the good pastor God has sent you. You can't receive the leadership God has sent you. You can't receive the friends God has sent you. You can't even receive prayer at the altar because you're afraid, because church people hurt me. So you said never again. I'm going to come in, get my word, and go home. Never again. So we have flawless, incomplete, never again. The truth with never again. Psalms 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. You don't have to live like that. If you're hurt and you're wounded, God can heal that. He can fix that. You don't have to sit in that. You don't have to live like that for the rest of your life. There is hope and there is healing for you. So flawless, incomplete, never again. And here's our last track. He's not there. He's not there. The he and he's not there is God. Have you ever been in a season in your life where you felt like God himself rejected you? I have a story about this. Y'all have a story for days. I have a story about this, and it's something that I experienced with God that because of how I chose to perceive what was happening, it sent me on a 5-6 year run without praying or speaking to God at all. So I was newly saved for real. You know, I got baptized and saved when I was a kid, but when I became an adult, it was for real that time. And I was having the time of my life with God. I mean, I would go into the prayer room and just immediately, the Spirit would fall, and I'll be in there praying, and everything I prayed, it would happen. Me and God was tight. I mean, every time I wouldn't even have to muster up anything. I would just go into my prayer closet, and there he was, showing up with me, speaking to me. And it was all good until it wasn't. So one day, I went into my prayer closet, and I sat, and I waited for the experience that I'm used to. And it felt like he wasn't there. I was like, okay, well, maybe this is just an off day, okay? Because God knows how we do. I come in here, I have my prayer shawl, which is my blanket. I put it over my head. I'm so holy. I'm so righteous. I'm praying. God knows how to show up. He didn't that day. To me, it didn't feel like it. So I said, okay, maybe this is an off day. So I go back the next day, try to pray again. God, where are you? I don't feel the tinglies that I used to feel. I don't feel you here anymore. And so because of that, I felt rejected by God. I said, you forgot about me. This is what we do. We come together. I'm your favorite. We come in here. I pray what you tell me to pray. Things are happening. My kids are acting right. We're flourishing, da-da-da. And I go back and you're not there. It felt like God himself had rejected me. And so because I did not have the proper perspective on it, I just stopped talking to him. Years went by. Another year went by. Another year went by. I don't even know if anyone knew. I wasn't reading my Bible. I wasn't praying. I wasn't doing anything because I felt like he wasn't there. But what I didn't understand was that God was not rejecting me. He was actually chasing me. That's what I had to learn. Here's the truth when you feel like he is not there. Psalms 34:17. The Lord hears his people when they call to him for help. He rescues them from all their troubles. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. Here's the thing. God is always there. He's never not there. If it feels like it, you're the one who made the adjustment, not him. He's always there. So we have flawless, we have incomplete, never again, and he's not there. Just take a moment and think, are these tracks on your mixtape that's playing? How long have you been here? How long have you felt you need to be perfect? How long have you felt incomplete, like you just weren't enough? How long have you felt I will never again be in a relationship again because I don't want to feel hurt? How long have you felt that because of whatever is going on in your life that you don't like, that God isn't there? These tracks right here is what's keeping you bound. It's what's keeping you oppressed under this spirit of rejection. So what's the point? Why am I even talking about this? Why am I bringing this to light? Here's the big idea for today. The spirit of rejection prevents you from experiencing God's best for you. Why? Because your thoughts and emotions become your master under it. So now your life is being led by a handbook that was never meant for it because you're under this spirit of rejection. You can't experience God's best for you because you believe the lie of the enemy that you're not good enough. You reject the truth of God's word. It keeps you from living your best life with God. You cannot receive the blessings and forms of other people. But what I have come today to share with you is that there is hope. There is hope. I'm a living witness of this. I have lived the majority of my life up until maybe a year ago under the oppression of this spirit. I was easily offended, cried all the time for the wrong reasons. And that may be you. You may be thinking, well, maybe I'm not easily offended. Maybe I'm just sensitive. No, you're not just sensitive. You're wounded. You're hurt. Let's just be honest about it. The spirit of rejection prevents you from experiencing God's best for your life. But as I mentioned, there's hope for you. And if what has happened at the beginning of this service is any indication, there will be deliverance for you today. As everyone stands to your feet, I'm done. We want to offer you in this moment a chance to respond to what you have heard today. Living under this spirit is miserable. It's miserable. It's a spirit that torments you. And we want to give you the opportunity today to respond to what you have heard. So if that's you today, and you say, I'm done with this. I'm done wrestling with this spirit. I'm done being oppressed by this. I'm done feeling like I have to be perfect. I'm done feeling like I'm incomplete. I'm done with it. I want to experience God's best for my life. We want to invite you right now to come down to the front. If that's you, if you want to be free, if you want to let go of this spirit, God has something so much better for you. As our intercessors begin to pray, we'll still wait for you. I declare that this day will never be the same. You are good enough just where you are. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to pretend to be anything else. You may not even see anything or anyone else like you, but God made you the way you are on purpose. As Pastor Jeff comes, we're going to begin to pray over you here at the altar. And as our prayer leads touch and agree with you, just believe that today is the last day that you're going to deal with this spirit. We can begin serving the people.